This is in reference to you. Time to wake up and take back what's yours. Did you know that America was and is part of the dominions of the Moroccan Empire? See United States Code Title 22 Chapter 2 Section 141, and that the Moors inhabited this and even before the American Indians, and that the Moors were and are your so-called Negroes, blacks and African Americans, and that black is a misnomer that dilutes to slavery as opposed to a freeborn man or woman. Did you know that black and African American is not a nationality but a 14th Amendment semi-slave status? Did you know that the family of nations will not recognize you as a member of the human race if you do not have a nationality and that you are considered a refugee? See U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 101A, 42, and Section 207E. Remember, black is a color and not a nation. Even though Europeans call themselves white, if you ask them their nationality they will tell you Irish, German, Scottish, Dutch, etc. But you as the alleged black man will say, oh, I'm African American. But Africa is not a country, it is a continent with over 50 countries in it. Which nationality are you? And there are 3 Americas, North, Central and South. You can't be 4 continents. Did you know that Europeans stripped you of your Moorish nationality so that you could never tie yourself back to your birthright inheritance, aka the Americas? Do some research on the Moors and the American Spanish land grants. Did you know that Noble Drew Ali attended the Pan American Conference in Havana, Cuba in 1928 and received a mandate from the families of nations that acknowledged the Moors as the rightful owners to these lands? North, Central, South America, Canada, Mexico and all adjoining islands. Seek out the minutes to the Pan American Conference and also research the Bustamante Codes 1928. Research Noble Drew Ali aka Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. You will see he was much more than a mere religious man, but the head of state and royal noble born amongst us and recognized by the nations of the earth. The European has erased any knowledge of our true history. He made us believe that we were brought over here by slave ships. This is a blatant lie. There is no way that they could have brought millions of US over here as they claim, because the ships that they had were only fit to hold 100 to 200 people at a time. That would mean that they would have had to take over 1,000 back and forth trips to bring US over here. Do the math. That just does not add up. In fact, we were already here. There was a great continental shift which caused the continents to separate. If you look at a map, you will see that all of the continents will fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. As the Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught, this land was called Amaxine. When it split up, the part we know as the Americas became Northwest Amaxine. So now you are starting to get the picture. We were already here. North America, Central America, and South America, and all of the adjoining islands belong to us by birthright. The European will make you think that the island of Atlantis was a myth when in all actuality, they know it to be true. They name many things after Atlantis like hotels and resorts, and even cities like Atlanta. We are all descendants of Atlantis over here in what is now called America. On record, the French called us Moors or Moors, so you see that we are Moors and we are aboriginal to this land. Notice in the movie called Black Knight starring Martin Lawrence they are always referring to him as Moor. They know you don't know this, so they can put it out there like that because they know that you won't identify your slave self with your real self because they have you calling yourselves blacks, which does not exist. I know I have never personally seen a black person a day in my life. Our skin colors range from dark brown to a light brown or tan color, not black. I challenge any reader of this scroll to show me someone who is as black as this ink that I am using to print this book. In that matter, show me a white person. Show me one person who is the color of this paper being used to transmit on. I bet my life that you can't. This was all a trick to classify you and remove your birthright and status. These Moors were the people who built the Great Pyramids all over South America, Peru, Canada, Alaska, and Georgia that scattered all throughout North America along the Mississippi River and its tributaries are found mounds built out of tons and tons of earth. The people who built them were called the Mound Builders, and they were the descendants of the Malian Moor Olmecs. These Moors eventually migrated to North America from Mexico and became known as Washita, Yamasee, and the Bismal tribe. The Binismanel tribe was a collection of what is now known as Lenape, Wampanoag, and Nanticoke Indians who migrated to Indiana and Illinois and referred to themselves as Moors, even though the United States government continued to classify them as Negroes in order to strip them of their indigenous rights. IT is often not talked about, but the Moors had enslaved the Europeans before they enslaved so-called blacks. Their women were sold like commodities into the harems and as concubines of wealthy Moors. This is the reason why the Moorish noble were, for the most part, bleached out, and became known as Tawny Moors, Turks, and Arabs, which are no more than fixed mulatto races. This also is the reason for the Moors in the coats of arms of noble Europeans' family. The so-called black nobility of Europe, and the Bilderberger group. The European nations paid tribute to the Moors well into the 18th century. In the book, United States and Barbary Powers, the English, French, Dutch, Danes, and Swedes, and I may say all nations are tributary to them. David McRitchie in the book Ancient and Modern Britain says that the word blackmail is the result of this tribute paid to the Black Army, or Black oppressors as the English referred to them. The Moors had control of the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. This is why the Marines sing of defeating the Moors from the halls of Montezuma, Mexico, to the shores of Tripoli, confirming in song the extent of the Moorish Empire or dominions of Amaxine, or Atlantis. Below is the first page of the Moroccan Treaty of 1787. It should also be noted that Shakespeare's most famous Moor, Othello, is also described as a black African. Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin worked closely with the Moors in the Continental Congress to secure this treaty. In the Bevins collection there are over 200 letters to the Bey of Morocco from the Continental Congress. There were many Moors in the Continental Congress working with the European Masons originally taught by Moors, to form a Novus Ordo Seclorum, new secular order of the ages, e pluribus unum, out of many peoples and nations. 1. The Moroccan treaty is very powerful because according to the Constitution, treaties are the law of the land. This treaty specifically deals with Moors. The question then may arise, how do we know that where the treaty says Moors, that so-called black people of that time is being referred to? The Moors were considered citizens or part of we the people who ratified the Constitution. IT says, thus an act was passed in Massachusetts on 6th of March, 1788, forbidding any Negro not a subject of the Emperor of Morocco, or a citizen of the United States, from tarrying in the Commonwealth. This for one shows that those who were referred to as Negroes were actually Moors and that they were on the same footing or status as state citizens. Those who remembered that they were Moors used this treaty specifically to deal with Moors. The question then may arise, how do we know that where the treaty says Moors, that so-called black people of that time is being referred to? The Moors were considered citizens or part of we the people who ratified the Constitution. IT says, thus an act was passed in Massachusetts on 6th of March, 1788, forbidding any Negro not a subject of the Emperor of Morocco, or a citizen of the United States, from tarrying in the Commonwealth. This for one shows that those who were referred to as Negroes were actually Moors and that they were on the same footing or status as state citizens. Those who remembered that they were Moors used the Moroccan Treaty of 1787 to secure their rights on the same footing as the state citizens without otherwise being obligated members of their social equality. While those who were brainwashed into believing they were Negroes, descendants of Africans brought here by the Europeans, were unprotected by the Moroccan Treaty, as well as the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. This document says a petition was presented to the House from sundry free Moors, subjects of the Emperor of Morocco, and residents in this state, praying that in case they should commit any fault amenable to be brought to justice, that they as subjects to a prince, here in North America, in alliance with the United States of America, via the Moroccan Treaty of 1787, may be tried under the same laws as the citizens of this state would be liable to be tried, and not under the Negro Act, which was received and read. Thus you had Moors back in 1789 saying what we say now. Our nationality is Moorish and not Negro, colored, black, etc. This is from the Moors Sundry Act of 1790. Free Moors Petition, ruling Edward Rutledge reported from the committee referred to the Free Moors Petition. The order for immediate consideration of the matter was read and agreed to as follows. They have considered the same of opinion that no law of this state can in its construction or operation apply to them, and that persons who were subjects of the Emperor of Morocco being free in this state are not triable by the law for the better ordering and governing of Negroes and other slaves. That's right. You are Moors. This is your land. As you can see, these laws are not your laws. They are commercial laws, and as long as you call yourselves blacks or African Americans, you are admitting to being a slave under the 14th Amendment of the United States Corporation. Yes, the United States is a corporation and it is not a country. The date is February 21st, 1871, and the 41st Congress is in session. I refer you to the Acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Session 3, Chapters 61 and 62. On this date in the history of our nation, Congress passed an act titled, An Act to Provide a Government for the District of Columbia. This is also known as the Act of 1871. What does this mean? Well, it means that Congress, under no constitutional authority to do so, created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which is a 10-mile square parcel of land. In essence, this act formed the corporation known as the United States. Note the capitalization, because it is important. This corporation, owned by foreign interests, moved right in and shoved the original organic version of the Constitution into a dusty corner. With the Act of 1871, our Constitution was defaced in the sense that the title was block capitalized and the word for was changed to the word of in the title. Did you know that 55 Moors helped put together the Constitution? Yes, we are the constructors of this whole land. That is why they had to hire Benjamin Banneker, also known as Ben Bay, to design the layout of Washington, D.C. In fact, it is even rumored that Benjamin Franklin did not even exist, but the identity of Benjamin Banneker was assumed by a European to hide the fact that we built this county and its early technology. The Moors had street lights in Seville, Spain 400 years before anyone else. What exactly does Moor mean? Moor verb, used with object, 1.to secure, a ship, boat, dirigible, etc., in a particular place, as by cables and anchors or by lines. 2.to fix firmly, secure. Verb, used without object, 3.to moor a ship, small boat, etc. 4.to be made secure by cables or the like. Noun 5. The act of mooring, so we can clearly see that moor has to do with navigating the seas, and it is not a word that means black, because if you trace the word black, in terms of race/nationality, you will find that the concept of black as a metaphor for race was first used at the end of the 17th century when a French doctor named François Bernier, 1625 to 1688, an early proponent of scientific racism, divided up humanity based on facial appearance and body type. Wikipedia.com/color_terminology_for_race. You cannot find any traces of our people calling themselves black before 1500. It is simply not there, because we knew our nationality, Moorish. How can a person be a color? Black is an adjective, not a noun. You can have a green shoe, but you can't have a green. That's impossible. A noun is a person, place, or thing. We are people, so we would be defined as a noun. Defining yourself any other way is illogical and foolish. What if someone walked up to you and told you that his nationality/race/ethnicity was green? You'd probably laugh. You can be Irish, but you cannot be green. This is how we act when we call ourselves black. We also learn in elementary school about colors. We learn that black is a single color, and black does not come in different shades. So how can our whole race call themselves black? It's just madness. How can someone be light-skinned black? You can be a light-skinned Moor or Asiatic, but not black. This is basic childhood information and understanding, nothing advanced. Now that we understand that Moor does not mean black, and that we did not call ourselves black before 1500, let's talk about nationality, and why it is so important. Nationality refers to a nation of people, so when you have a nationality you represent a certain nation. This is why if a Chinese person comes to America and commit murder, the United States government will look to the nation of China for answers. When you have a nation, you can get reparations, sign treaties, and go to war with other nations. Why did the Jews and Japanese both get reparations for their tragedies? Since 1953, West Germany has paid out more than $35 billion in reparations to the Zionist state and to millions of individual victims of National Socialism. Why did we not get any for slavery? Well, it's fairly simple. We did not have a nation. Israel has a flag. Japan has a flag. But do black people have a flag? No, because there is no nation behind them. Here is the Moorish flag. It is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. The 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. A nickname for our flag was the cherry tree, because of its red and green color. So now you understand why they tell us the story about George Washington chopping down the cherry tree. Our seal is the Great Seal, which we find on the back of the dollar bill. However, the original Great Seal had the capstone attached to the pyramid. The detached capstone represents us straying from our ways and being stripped of our teachings. In other words, debasing ourselves from God/Allah/Anu/the Most High, or whatever you choose to call God. Notice that it says the Great Seal under this one and not the eagle, which represents the European. Also note that whenever government officials speak, they never have this seal behind them. Why? Because it is ours. It is always the eagle seal, which is theirs. If another country wanted to help out all of the black people in America, would we even have the power to sign a treaty? No. So what happens if you don't have your nationality? You become stateless. Stateless means you lack citizenship/nationality, which in turn makes you a refugee. Refugees in turn often have to seek asylum, which means a place where they will not be persecuted because of their status as a refugee. In the US, we call these people asylees. So, a particular nation is not required to give rights to anyone without a nationality. Why do you think even after the 15th Amendment, the black people were still marching for voting rights in the 1960s? If they were truly citizens and had a nationality, there would have been no problem. And if you think that the Voting Rights Act of 1964 gave blacks the right to vote, think again. Congress keeps extending the act for however long they feel. Bush just extended it for 25 years in 2006. So this means, it's not a right, but a privilege that Congress is giving blacks. What if Congress decides not to extend it anymore? Now think about this. If they can sign such a thing into law that easily, then don't you think that with a few signatures they could make those same votes null and void? Now you may begin to understand how and why those black votes that would have helped or win were thrown out. Because those people were operating on granted privileges and not using their divine birthrights. They're human, not civil rights. How can one have civil rights, but not human rights? When Hurricane Katrina went down, if you were watching closely, they kept calling the blacks refugees, but they never called the Europeans refugees. This is because they were using lawful terms to describe us. They weren't just being mean. They were also being called looters, which lawfully is correct. Technically, they are only in this country because someone let them. So if they break into a store to try and get food to survive, they are still looting because they do not have citizenship to be here. Some try and say that the 14th Amendment made all of the so-called blacks, Negroes, and African American citizens. However, we know that citizens make the amendments, not the other way around. How can your citizenship be based on an amendment that can easily be taken away? Also, that same amendment made corporations be able to get equal protection because corporations got considered as legal persons. Corporations are fictitious/artificial entities. Hence corporation. Corpse, meaning dead. So how can they be persons and get equal protection? The 14th Amendment does not make you a citizen. It allows you to get granted privileges such as voting, when they will let you, and entering into federal programs such as Social Security, as long as you pay taxes. Not having citizenship also makes you a second-class citizen, so those are the effects of not having citizenship and nationality. For more clarification, research the legal definitions of these words. Try and get a 3rd or 4th edition Black Law Dictionary. 5th edition sucks. You want the older ones, because they have the old real definitions. Just like if you were doing a research paper about ancient Egypt, you would want the oldest sources possible. Minority infant colored civil affair mortuous free white persons also. Look up jus soli, and jus sanguinis. These are the ways that one has to prove his or her nationality. These terms will help you understand things more clearly. Okay, now time for some of the more mind-blowing history, to show that we are Moors, and that Moors are native/indigenous to the entire planet, not just Africa. Moors have been in America for ages untold. When Christopher Columbus, Cristobal Colon, got to the Americas, he met Moors. He says it in his diaries. But you never learned about it in school. Look at the first page of a book called Ancient America by Jonathan Norton Leonard, and it will say that Columbus saw Moorish women when he got here. They taught you in their public, private school system that Cristobal Colon Christopher Columbus, a said Jew, discovered the so-called Americas. Obviously, this is not so. They told you he was on his way to so-called Hindustan, India, and got lost, yet his diaries tell you, November 2nd entry, that his interpreters spoke Arabic, Chaldean, and Hebrew Africa, and the discovery of America by Leo Wiener, and were able to converse in Arabic with the King of Cuba. These are the same people that Cristobal referred to as woolly-haired Mohammedans, a fancy code word for Moor. Take note that Cristobal had no interpreter that spoke Hindu, yet it is alleged that he was headed to a land where Hindu is a primary language. Translation: Cristobal knew exactly where he was going, and he knew exactly who he would find when he got there. U.S. We Moors were on all the islands and continents. They call us natives, native Indians, Aztec, Mayans, Incas, and other mixture of names, code names, and misnomer slave names. Moors practice Islamism, and we are Muslims. That is why he called them Mohammedans. Get a decent unabridged dictionary and look up Moor. It will say Mohammedan. Also, it is clear that he knew where he was going. Research these two names, Martin Alonso Pinzon and Vicente Inex Pinzon. We were not brought here through slavery. This is perhaps one of the biggest lies they fed us in the public school system. How in the world could they have attempted to move 150 million people over a 300-year period using smaller ships? Barclays Bank made a fortune making loans to slave shipbuilders, while Lloyd's of London made a fortune insuring those slave ships. Making fewer trips with smaller cargo capacity, taking a greater amount of time to make the trip than today's modern ships. Wake up and do the math. We were already here. Hello? Is anybody listening? Our great-great-grandparents were lied to. Our great-grandparents were lied to. Our parents were lied to. We were lied to. People talk about they know about what happened to us, our language, spirituality, health, nationality, tribal names, etc. You have no idea. You are Moorish Americans. Your divine creed, spirituality, science, is Islamism, which is no more than the study of the Egyptian sciences. Nationality and divine creed, what some say is the 2/5 that is missing from the 5/5, which makes you 3/5 till this day because of ignorance. Abraham Lincoln did not save you. The amendments did not save you. How can someone that is not in their own proper person be able to save you? It takes one of your own. Study Noble Drew Valley. Spirit, soul, flesh, nationality, and divine creed are the 5 parts of whole man. They took away our nationality and divine creed, hence the 3/5 of a person. Moorish science allows us to gain back our nationality and divine creed so we can be complete again. We Moors are descendants of the Moroccans, ancient Canaanites, and ancient Moabites, but we are born in America. We traveled the world and gave similar or the same name to certain things as a ritual for energy, because words carry vibrations. There is a Cairo in Egypt, and a Cairo, Illinois. An ancient name for Nubia was Tennessee, so we named a city Tennessee. We had Memphis, Egypt, and now we have Memphis, Tennessee. We also have Moorhead, Minnesota, which sits in the fertile Red River Valley. We also have Moab, Utah, named after the Moabites. It's also interesting that Memphis, Tennessee, is similar to Memphis, Egypt, in that they both are right on the bank of 2 very fertile rivers, the Nile and Mississippi, which both run from south to north. There are so many places named after us. Look them up. Moreland, Kentucky, Moore County, North Carolina. Carthage is the seat. Moore, Russia. Yeah, we were all over the world. North Moor, Missouri low more, Iowa more head, Minnesota more, Idaho more, Oklahoma more, Pennsylvania more, South Carolina more, Montana more, Texas more, Tennessee more haven, Florida more river and Western Australia more, Cheshire, England, proof that our ancient Moorish forefathers wore this is all over the place. Where do you think we get the cap that we wear when we graduate? That cap is modeled after our fez. It has the tassel and everything. They added the top part which represents the square, a tool used to measure thoughts and character, spiritually. Note that there are variations of the fez, and since the headdress is so ancient, there have been many changes to it. So now, we are gonna move into more modern evidence of our nationality. Watch the movie Black Knight with Martin Lawrence. What do they keep calling him? Why does he not know what they are calling him? Then watch The Matrix, the first one. Look up who it was really written by, Sophia Stewart and more. K further than that. Watch Robin Hood with Morgan Freeman, and watch how they keep calling him more. Also, listen to the first two lines of the song Misrepresented People by Stevie Wonder, who is blind, yet he knows our nationality. Here are the first two lines, but go listen to it for yourself. In 1492 you came upon these shores. 700 years, educated by the Moors. Notice he says you came upon these shores, not they. We are Moors. Look at the Moor on the back of the $2 bill. Then connect things. A couple last things. Look into who the first 8 presidents were, because Washington was the 9th. And look into the Moors Sundry Act of 1790. And look into the longest unbroken treaty the U.S. has, and who it's with. Hint hint, Morocco LOL. Peace Moors. It's only a matter of time before we rise up and put on our fezzes and turbans. The Moors brought the game of chess to countries around the world from Egypt where it originated. This information is fairly comprehensive and is a great starter. To supplement this, watch videos on youtube.com by Tosh Tariq Bey and Sabir Bey. Also watch Critical Thinking Parts 1 to 7 on youtube.com by myself and brother Mark Jones Bey. At the page myspace.com/nobledreamwally comment there is a lot of good info there. Books, Golden Age of the Moors by Yvonne van Sertima, Ancient and Modern Britain's Vol. 1 and 2 by David McRitchie, A Star in the West by Elias Bottino. The Diaries of Christopher Columbus will also help you piece things together. This comprehensive information was brought to from various sources, one namely being D. Salah Bay. Please take the time to study this information given here so you can know who you are. It is not too late for us to wake up. Imagine no more kangaroo court cases. No more child support. No more of the courts and the government being in your business. You would become upright and won't have to worry about those things anymore, all the while knowing that the laws of this land only apply to you if you admit to being a slave. Reclaim your nationality and correct your status and live free. You are not black. Black people don't exist. If you are interested in breaking the chains of oppression, then you can contact me.